CJK, Adam's not here. I haven't even talked to Adam today. He's probably still sick, but I have Charmaine with me today.
Hi, everybody.
Let me just turn my volume up here too. You guys can hear us okay? Well, let's see. We'll talk for a second and let us know that we're okay. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about the JonBenet Ramsey case. And Charmaine, this is right up your alley, this case, eh?
Well, it was for a long time, and then it wasn't, and then you brought it up again, so then it was again, and I guess it is again today.
You know, I've been thinking about the JonBenet Ramsey case because it's kind of been sidetracked for a while because, you know, of the other different ones going on. But, you know, I was trying to put some thought in it, and I was like this case has been going on forever. The JonBenet Ramsey case, of course. I remember it, of course, from the very beginning of when it happened, because I'm young enough to know that. But, you know, and it's a case that's haunted me myself, just for wanting some resolution for this beautiful, you know, child. But I've been thinking about it for a few weeks, and I was contemplating, like, do I really want to deep dive into it that much? Because besides kind of like Delphi, there's only a point that you can take it, and then you know that it's just really to keep looking at the same things, trying to, you know, and then talk about it. And I wasn't sure if I was invested in just rehashing it all again, like going through all the evidence and stuff like that. And I decided my answer was no, because it's been done. Channels have continuously been talking about it. And I just felt like that would be, I don't want to say a lot of wasted time, but I want to say that there's a bunch of other cases out there. And I was hoping, listening to JonBenet's case, knowing that it's been brought into the, you know, like it's never died, but it's been brought into the public again, because of, like I said, different things going on, and the 23andMe thing. And I didn't feel like I want to put all that energy into just talking about what everybody has been talking about, the letter, who wrote the letter, the ransom note, because it would be like doing this, you know? And that was happening with Delphi. And that's why with kind of like JonBenet's case in Delphi, it was like, okay, when there's actually like some new information coming out, you know, that way we can still look at other cases and stuff like that, knowing that this one is circled. I mean, what is it? Are we at the 26 mark yet? Pretty much. 27
in December. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Right. December's 27, isn't it? Wow. Yeah. And I can't believe that. Like, honestly, if I really think about it, Charmaine, it's been like, it seems like I would say it was maybe like a 10-year-old case, perhaps. You
Yeah.
know, it doesn't seem like 27 because she's literally the same age as my husband. I think 1990. You know, so right.
Yeah. Well, this happened when my oldest daughter was 3 years old, and she just turned 30, and I thought, that's not right.
I know.
Where
I
did that
know.
time go?
Yeah, it's such a heartbreaking case. Okay, so have you actually covered it on your podcast? I know we talked about it, but have you actually like really done a lot on your podcast with it? And if so, for how long?
Um, we didn't do a lot. I purposely didn't do a deep dive just because, like you said, it's just regurgitating the same stuff over and over again. And over the years, there have been so many theories and speculations and stuff. I just feel like it's the most infamous unsolved murder in true
Yeah,
crime, right?
yeah,
So everybody that's interested in true crime knows this case.
yes,
Um,
I agree.
I-
You know what? Before we get ahead of ourselves, Charmaine, I'm rudely because sometimes when I feel like I've already known someone, I keep forgetting that people that have no idea who you are, and then they see the live. Um, so this is Charmaine's now second time in the last week here that she's been on here. So although Charmaine has been a viewer of the It's a Crime and Shame channel, and she's on Messenger and we talk there too. Can you just give everyone just a brief idea of just about yourself? I obviously you're from Canada, and about your true crime passion or whatever, and how you actually got into it. Can you do that first, and then we'll get back?
sure. It's not really a story that I tell a whole lot, but I was actually born into true crime. My mom was a fanatic back in the 70s and 80s and constantly was watching it. And then we had some things happen in our family. My brother was actually charged with a double homicide in Calgary, and
Okay.
that kind of brought me into it as an adult. Obviously, I followed cases as a teenager, whatever, but really, really got interested in it as a young adult when my brother went to prison, and uh, and then from there, just like everybody else, probably in chat,
Right.
just following cases that interest me, and then my daughter and I decided to start a podcast last year, and we just cover some well-known and not so well-known true crime cases, and it's I don't want to say it's fun, but you
Right.
feel like you're helping in some
You're helping. Yeah.
strange way, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
And with that being said, I want to thank Tisha Leeway again. That was on the live last night as we talked about Suzanne Morphew. Again, I personally I like pure hearts, what I call people with pure hearts, in a sense that nobody's perfect in this world, but there's people that clearly define what I consider to be pure hearts. They're in it for the right reasons. They do things, unselfishly and for right reasons. But anyways, and so your brother, okay, so your brother committed two homicides. Did you say?
So I don't remember when you said you lived in Calgary, but this was actually a very high profile case in Calgary.
Yeah.
Um, Back in 2003, 2004, and I know this community is very um,
Oh,
we're very kind people, and so I hope nobody looks at me a certain kind of way. But
I would hope
he
not.
was involved in a situation where he threw a Molotov cocktail through the window of a home in Calgary,
Oh,
and two very young children ended up dying in that fire. So
oh,
he, I'm not here to give him any kudos or anything, but he did kind of turn himself in and testified against the other people, and
right.
he served his time. But yeah,
Okay, so is he out now?
well, I shouldn't say just. He was released in 2018. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and I've
Um,
actually can't say like completely in hiding, but one of the reasons I live so remotely is to kind of stay away from him, because for the longest time while he was in prison, I was the only family member that would go and see him and would talk to him, because I was trying to understand what went wrong with him and
Yes.
how can we help you be better? Like, what can we do to make this better? And
Right.
I mean, at some point, I didn't give up on him by any means, but
Yeah.
I feel like he gave up on me. He would
Right.
never, he would never take accountability. It was always woe is me, and this is my life, and this is what's
Yeah.
happened, and this is what went wrong. And he was
Yeah.
never like, poor kids. What did I do wrong? How can I make this better? I
Right.
had
I
to
get it.
start off for myself, right? Because
Right. Right. Because it is honestly that the woe me syndrome on people is very toxic, really.
yeah,
I know a lot of people in the woe me thing. And the thing is that again, like I was never one to sit there and like sulk about things. I never have been. Like I totally accept accountability for any of my actions that I do
yeah,
because that's just it. The idea.
spiritual,
So everything you do is your own choices, regardless. No one's unless someone's literally standing there twisting your arm, putting a G to your head or something like that.
yeah,
So yes, so I get that because you have the soft heart. So you know one of the few people say that still care.
yeah,
um you know uh so I get that and I get, like, I'm not in your position by no means. So
yeah.
but I get the soft heart versus somebody that's not taking accountability for their actions.
Mhm.
And it gets old, to be honest. It gets
It
old.
does. It gets old, and I mean, it took me a long time to kind of realize what kind of damage he was doing to me by
Right.
trying so. Because
You
I
know,
was all in. I was like, I can fix this. I can help him, and
yeah.
it tore me up. So
Yeah. So and I was gonna say, right, because it's like it's mentally draining, honestly. Like for me to deal with negative people, it drains the shit right out of me. It just does. Because it's like there's so many of those souls in this world. And
there is.
and usually the ones that are the givers, the carers and that, they attract those freaking
Yeah, we
leeches like
bring them
any.
in. We
Oh
bring them.
yeah, poor me, because it's like, oh, poor you, I can help you. Oh, poor you, I can fix you. Oh, poor you. I had to actually recognize that. Like, to be honest, I didn't even recognize that till I was probably in my 40s. That I was
Yeah,
like, oh, if I look at my relationships before and I look at what I've done, I just thought of it as being kind to people and stuff. I didn't actually realize that I was literally attracting their freaking leeches that like
yeah,
zap your energy.
exactly. You're right. We're like magnets to those types of people because we're so willing to help. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a trap
Yeah.
sometimes. It's hard to tell the difference. I'm never gonna not want to help people, but I'm a lot
Right.
more careful about
Careful.
who I open up to. Yeah.
That's how I am now, right? It used to be just whoever and anyone pretty much. And then I got very selective when I was in my 40s because, again, we attract like the narcissist people and stuff like that. And actually, that's because online, when I was playing a game, that RuneScape game that I was talking about before I met my husband, like there was this person that I knew was effed up, and I was like, "Oh, I can help you," blah 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 blah. I was trying to get him to see like life, like this is what you need to do and stuff like that. And honestly, he turned out to be a full blown freaking, sorry, no offense, but 500-pound narcissist, that literally was treating me as if I was a piece of crap. And yet I had made Christmases for him and his caretaker for like 2 years, spending thousands, trying to just show him that, there's like that
People that
life's
care, people
people
that'll help,
care.
but
Yeah, and
they're
so it was
just entitled. The more you
yeah,
do, the more they expect, and
yeah.
there's
Mine.
never
So
any
that's
gratitude, right?
sorry. Go ahead, Charmaine.
I just, I they just never show any gratitude at some point, right? Like a nice thank
Right.
you is all I need, but when you say
Same.
thank you and then expect me to do more and more and more, it
Right.
hurts. It hurts. And I mean, now my circle is so small. I
Yeah.
don't even have a circle anymore. This is kind of my circle. So
And you say again, kind of like Tish. I get that why, even yourself, we attract, um, kind people attract to each other. And that's why you will barely see a troll in here, because if you do, you'll get ousted. And that's why there's so many kind, caring people in the chat room that are, like loyal, it's a crime and shame people. And it's because they understand my heart and Adam's heart and say your heart. And I understand their hearts because, again, that's why that's obviously why you'd be watching the channel, because you see the fact that perhaps like it's genuine, honest, just trying to be truthful. So that's why when Tish was talking yesterday or you're talking now, it just, like you said, you guys sound like you're all the same hearts as me as you talk, because your thinking is the same, because I'm very selective in what I do anymore. It's like I've said a few times, I've always been a giver, not a receiver. So, like,
Yeah.
if you sent money, or somebody sent money, it does absolutely is meant a lot to me, because I know that what I'm doing is like I said, like a few grand, definitely like 3 grand, pretty much off of what I made, and then like how in life you just kind of go through these ups and downs. Well, it's kind of been like this for a couple years since I would say C word come in a sense. And so now it just, I know like next year, for instance, once our vehicle is paid off, finally, that it will go back up again, because there will be an extra $1,000 that can go towards, instead of the vehicle for the last 5 years. So it's just kind of like when you're in that growing pains a little bit, and then all of a sudden Ryan's issues all of a sudden popping up and stuff like that. But it's going to work out. So,
Just
there's a positive.
and get to the other side of it, and it
Yeah.
always everything ebbs and flows, right?
Yes. I call it a roller coaster is what I call it. Life is a roller coaster, and it's how you ride it that matters,
That's know that
So
nothing good and nothing bad ever lasts. It's always just changing.
it's always, yeah.
What comes, and what goes.
Yeah. That's why I actually have a very soft heart for people that might have taken their own lives and stuff like that, is because they're at a very low point, but that life is like this, right? So I always feel very sad, especially when they're children that are like, with the internet and on TikTok and all these things and these stupid challenges, or, but just knowing myself, some people where like, 14, 15, and I'm just like, oh, if only you knew that, it doesn't always stay that way, So
Yeah.
children always have. Anyways, let's just see here. Bianca, hey guys. Anyways, thank you guys for joining us on the live. There's 40 people in here at the time. We're talking about the JonBenet Ramsey case. I'm going to play a couple clips in just a minute here, and then we'll get into that, and then we'll talk about the JonBenet Ramsey case. And Bianca said, I spent a lot of years deep diving into this case for the last 10 years. I've been positive my theory and my POI was right until I found out about the floor safe in the room where JBR, was found. Now I don't know. Um, until I found out about the floor safe in the room. So I don't even know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I'd be
I wonder
interested to hear about that.
I wonder if it's in any of those two clippings. I don't know.
I don't want to say that I've seen everything about the case, but I've never seen anything about that. Like, I know she was in that room in the basement.
I mean, I don't know. Probably how I felt about Delphi.
Yeah.
That
Maybe
hadn't
Bianca
solid.
can explain that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so what I'm going to do, guys, is there's two clips I want to play. They're about 5 minutes long each from News Nation, kind of like the latest updates. So I'm going to play those, and then we'll come back and discuss JonBenet's case. In my opinion, it seems like everyone overlooks the father. I have heard the mom did it theory from the detective. Brother did it, not much looking at the dad. To be honest, I couldn't imagine putting myself in the spotlight like he's done if he's so guilty. You don't. What do
I
you
have some
think?
very strong opinions about. Um, I don't think the family had anything to do with it. Let's put it that way. The letter, Sonny, the letter,
Yeah,
okay. I'm not
right.
willing to say there's no way that Patsy wrote that. I'm not willing to say that. I don't know. I don't know. But what I do know, and I'm willing to die on that mountain, is John
Yeah.
Ramsey did not kill his daughter. And I will die on the mountain saying that Patsy Ramsey did not stage her daughter to look that way. I'm sorry. I just after everything, and
I'm
especially lately. I mean, I'm pretty sure I know what clips you're going to play, Sonny, and
yeah.
after that, that just solidifies my own.
I
There's no way. There's no way.
I think that I was feeling the same way as you on that once I was playing the clips, you know. And it's one of those things, like I said, I remember it. And like any case like Delphi, JonBenet's case is not excluded from what might look some way, might look that way, kind of like KK with Delphi. So although there's so many things that have looked like he's part of it, there's nothing there to charge him with anything. And it really could just be one of those freak things in life that literally, because he messaged her and talked to the friends, it seems odd, seems ridiculous. And in JonBenet Ramsey's case, to me, the whole thing seems odd. Like everything from like the pineapple, still in the bowl that looks like it's pretty much full still. I don't know, like there's things that definitely don't add up, but I'm not so willing to say that any of them did it.
Mhm.
I know that they were cleared by DNA.
And I
But you
mean,
know what?
at that point though, with the everybody, every suspect in the last 27 years has been cleared by DNA. So
Yeah.
to me,
Well,
that was my argument when it came to people that thought Burke had something to do with it. He was also cleared by DNA. So if we don't believe that Gary Oliva had anything to do with it because he was cleared by DNA, why do we
right,
still think that Burke's got something to do with it? They were all cleared, but when Sonny's
right.
done playing these clips, I think that it's going to start a
Yeah,
completely different discussion about
let
that.
yeah, we'll come back to it, you guys, in just a minute. Let me just start by playing. I'll play the first clip that was 6 days ago, and then I'll play the clip after that that was just last night. Because that's when I seen it, and that's when I was like, you know what, I need to do a JonBenet one because there's been some updates going on here. So let me do that. And so this one is 4 minutes and 50 seconds. So I'll play this one first.
It is hard to believe that JonBenet Ramsey would be 33 years old. Just let that sink in. JonBenet Ramsey died at 6 years old, murdered in her home in Colorado, day after Christmas, 1996. She would be 33 years old today. And that, while I know it's not lost on you, it is definitely not lost on her family and loved ones because we still don't know who did it. We still don't have the suspect. But what we do have, according to a new report, is potentially new persons of interest. Yes, I said plural, new persons of interest. Maybe even new possible evidence. I mean, it's astounding. They've been working with the country's top DNA experts, for months. Trace DNA, very small amount, was found on JonBenet's clothing, the murder scene. But what does this new persons of interest report really mean? John Ramsey is with me live now. I've talked to you over the years, for decades, John, and here we are again. I don't know if this is hopeful news. I don't know if it's more than just a report. What are you learning?
Well, the Boulder Police Department went through a fairly major shakeup, I don't know, in the last year. They brought in a new chief of police, new assistant chief from the outside of the department. Citizens Review Board recommended 5 or 6 of their detectives be terminated. The detective that was responsible for our case for the last 25 years was not terminated, but put on night patrol. So there's a lot of good things happening, we think, in terms of the leadership and basically straightening out of the police department. We had the opportunity to meet with the chief of police and her assistant and the district attorney about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago. And it was a good meeting. It was a long meeting. I was impressed with their professionalism and believe in their commitment to get this solved. So that's encouraging. We still hope, and we don't know if this is being done or not, but we know there's evidence that was taken from the crime scene that was never tested, was sent off for testing, but was never tested for DNA. But that should be done. We've asked that be done and be done in the cutting edge labs. You know, we were told that the government doesn't have the latest technology, unfortunately. But there are one or two cutting edge labs that have the latest technology. That's where this testing ought to be done. I don't know where it's being done. And then use the public genealogy database with whatever information we get to research and basically do a backwards family tree, which has been wildly successful in solving some very old cold cases.
Yes. It really has. I mean, it seems to be par for the course now for all investigations to use genealogy. I'm curious about this report. I mean, I have to be clear that the report came out in a publication called The Messenger, and The Messenger reported that suspects and witnesses can come from a variety of places. This is what the police source told them. It's not just the DNA. It's what happens when you investigate a very difficult case. There are new people to look at, so hopefully figure out who killed JonBenet. You know, I'm wondering if I get it if they don't share a lot. They can't screw up an investigation after this long. But do you read anything into that report that they may be further ahead than we have thought?
Well, we're hopeful if that's the case. Yeah, I mean, it's encouraging information if it's accurate and correct. Very encouraging. And yeah, so we're very hopeful. I mean, all these changes that were taking place within the police department were positive, and this may be a result of those changes. So
let's hope.
Yeah, I'm encouraged.
John, I hope you and I are going to meet about the arrest. That's when I hope our next interview is going to be, and then I hope we talk again at the conviction. And all points in between. Thank you, as always, for being a guest on the program. And I consider you a friend after all these years.
Okay, so I'm just Charmaine. I'm going to play the other one. So give me a second here. Share screen.
Taking a second look at John Mark Carr. The science, now that my kid is 18 years smarter. And the DNA testing is that much better. And that's where his DNA is going now. It is going to a new advanced and innovative DNA testing lab specializing in innovative genetic genealogy. That's the key, ain't it? Because when my kid was born, genetic genealogy wasn't really a thing. Yeah, 23andMe didn't really exist, right? We didn't know about that stuff. Now we do. So here's the thing. Has he been under our noses all along? Could it really be him? You probably heard about a month ago that Steve Helling, reporter for The Messenger, one of the best crime reporters out there, got an interview with John Mark Carr in which John Mark Carr said everyone was so quick to say I was a liar or delusional. Did it ever occur to someone that I might have been trying to protect someone else? So there was that news a month ago with Steve Helling, and now there's this news from guess who? Steve Helling. And he joins me live. He's a senior crime reporter for The Messenger. Steve, you keep breaking news on this case. I am so curious about the potential for John Mark Carr to be relevant again. Tell me what you know.
Well, so what we know for sure is that, they're retesting this DNA. You had John Ramsey on the show just the other night. We all know that they're retesting it. And, I spoke with the authorities and they're saying, we know it's not going to be any member of the Ramsey family. That's clear because, there are reports from 26 years ago that say that it wasn't one of the Ramseys. So they're saying it's got to be somebody else who would have broken in. And so they're looking at everybody. And John Mark Carr is going to be one of those people who they're going to look at again. And, I can't believe that you and I are having this conversation in 2023, but here we are. And, is it going to be John Mark Carr? We don't know, but they have to check it again.
So I'm reading as well. I mean, and great reporting, by the way. And you always have great reporting, but this is really terrific stuff that they're also testing other evidence. I don't know if you know what other evidence or if it's other evidence related to John Mark Carr, but I'm just wondering if it's like, well, let's just go over all the suspects. Let's open up the books again. Or if it's more pointed, deliberate, and there's something we don't know that makes this beyond let's just take a second look at him.
There could be something that we don't know. What I would say is that they made the mistake before of just focusing on the Ramsey family for, what was it, 12 years, when they could
Well,
have.
Patsy died under a cloud of
Yes.
suspicion, under the umbrella of suspicion. They could have cleared her in 2 weeks.
Exactly. And they didn't. So I think now what they're doing is they're saying, okay, we're not even going to go down that route again because, clearly that was a dead end. Let's do what we should have done in, 1996. Let's do what we should have done when John Mark Carr came out, in 2005. So let's go through this again. And what we do know is, when I interviewed John Mark Carr a few weeks ago, as I'm listening to him, I'm thinking, well, he knows some things, other things he doesn't know. I don't know the answer to it, and neither does anybody else. But what I would say is that, I agree with the FBI, who said at the time that they had cut him loose just a little bit too soon.
Too soon. Yeah, I'm with you. Hey, speaking of too soon, when they cut him loose, a lot of us just lost track of him. We figured he just kind of melted back into weirdo land. But you have some reporting on what he's actually been up to and where he's been living. What do you know?
So I had a 3-hour conversation with him, and he was in a high rise somewhere in Europe.
That's funny. Did Sonny leave me in here? All by myself? No.
No, hold on. Sorry. 1 second. I got to go back to it. I was trying to send messages in chat and I didn't realize it would pop out of the video. So let me go back to it. It's just that I was trying to, Sissy had said something and then I went to go answer back and it kept saying that I can't send a message. So let me see if I can quickly again. So I had said, LOL, Sissy. But let me just see if it's working. So I just thought I could quickly, yeah, now it's working. It kept giving me an error. So I thought I could leave quickly and it would still be playing. Apparently I was
just looking at my phone and I look up and I'm like on the screen. I'm like, oh, shit.
Okay, let me just go back to that 1 sec, guys. Sorry about that. Okay, I'll go back just a little bit here.
With him, and he was in a high rise somewhere in Europe, is what he told me. And from my tracking of what I could find, that tracked with what I knew. We talked. He went on and on about things. And the thing is, as you know, Ashley, the longer that you talk to somebody, the more they let slip, just in talking. And so, I know that it's somewhere in Western Europe. I know he's in a city. I know that he, there was all this talk that he had, transitioned and had undergone a gender reassignment. He says that's not true. It was kind of it was a very interesting phone conversation, to say the least.
What about this nugget that he may have worked as someone's nanny? Is that true?
He had worked as a nanny. He is not now. But he did, around 2009, 2010, his resume appeared online back then, as I recall, where he was looking for a job like that. That's not what he's doing now. He was a little bit cagey. I don't know what he's doing to make ends meet now. He wouldn't really get into that. He really wanted just to keep bringing the conversation back to JonBenet Ramsey.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. 1 second. Coming back. Just gotta close that clip off now. Okay. So what's your thoughts on that, Charmaine, about, like I said, that information that kind of came out now and that sending... Go ahead.
With the John Mark Carr thing, I think they're going to be retesting everybody's DNA, like all of the suspects from day one.
Yeah.
But about John Mark Carr, John Ramsey actually gave a statement to Ashley Banfield. I'm not sure if you knew that or if you have that statement, but I'll read it if you want.
Yeah, no, go ahead and read it, please. Yeah, thank you.
He said, John Mark Carr is a viable suspect. His emails over 2 years became very concerning, and we turned him over to the DA for further screening. Law enforcement did some amazing detective work to locate him in Thailand and eventually arrested him there. There's pretty strong evidence that he was stalking our family for a good while prior to JonBenet's murder. So that's what he had to say about John Mark Carr. But say not even 2 months ago when the Gary Oliva stuff came back to light,
Right.
John Ramsey was saying, you know, he was staying 13 houses down from us. He had a taser, this and that. So he thought Gary Oliva was a good suspect not 2
Right.
months ago. So, I mean, I think he's just as confused as the rest of us as to what to think.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
I think that this new, it's not, some of the DNA was never tested because they were waiting for advances in technological.
Technology. But it's been out
You
for a
know,
while now.
yeah, so I know that they had tested over 900 pieces of evidence, and they had more that they didn't test that now John Ramsey is trying to have tested at a special lab with these advanced procedures.
Right.
So,
Because they're testing actually more of the evidence too. That,
yeah.
like I said, they wanted to. So, okay, so let me ask you one question first. Let's go back to the indictment of John and Patsy, and then the prosecutors felt like there wasn't enough. Like, what's your thoughts on that part of the case when it happened, or when we actually found out about that?
So the indictment was
Yeah.
actually, the grand jury was actually for child abuse. So they came back with the recommendation to bring charges on child abuse. It wasn't actually for JonBenet's murder. So I think that there wasn't, I mean, how can you, to me, as a mom of little girls back then, I can
Yeah.
look at beauty pageants and think that that could be a form of child abuse. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Right. Yeah.
who knows what evidence they were hearing, because I didn't know that they were ever being accused of child abuse other than rumors and supposition. I didn't know that there was anybody out there saying that they were abusive to their children. So who knows what that grand jury was hearing to bring back the recommendation to press charges. But at the end of the day, it wasn't about JonBenet's murder, and the DA decided not to go forward with charges. So to me, you always hope that the police are policing. Clearly, in this case, they weren't, and Delphi, they might not have been. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think. But it's a solvable case in any regard. So
Yeah, I think so too. And I don't know. It kind of reminds me a little bit about Delphi. Like, I just feel like there's stuff that was so sloppily done, and I think Delphi's the same way. And when, like, for instance, if Delphi crime scene was contaminated because there was obviously people there before the actual crime scene investigators and stuff like that, and I don't know. It's just I feel like there's a lot of sloppiness with this case. But
yeah, and they didn't take all of the evidence from the crime scene. But to me, Delphi is much different than JonBenet, because in JonBenet's case, the investigators immediately had blinders on and they were going after the family. And
yeah, correct.
right or wrong, the little girl was found in the house. There was no evidence of an intruder from what they could tell from their investigation. They had victim services, they had family friends, they had the pastor. Everybody was trampling all over that crime scene before they even knew it was a crime scene. Even though it was a
Right.
kidnapping, it should have been treated as such right from the get-go. But that's a different thing. Whereas Delphi, I don't think they had blinders on at all. They just didn't know what way to go.
I think it's honestly, it boiled down to me to inexperience. You have Delphi to me, that was a little community that never dealt with anything like that before, really, you know. And I think that there was, and I think the same thing with you know, JonBenet is like I said, they're sitting there not even deeming it as a crime scene, really, like meaning it's just a missing girl with a ransom note, supposedly. And then, like I said, the friends start coming, the pastor starts coming, you know, from John picking, you know, her up and different things. And I don't know, like it just, like I said, I think, and that's why I feel like with Delphi, it's kind of similar but different. Similar in the fact that I think that the inexperience, because Tobe Lesenby didn't take the help that he was offered at the start when Lafayette offered to help, he turned them down. And then a week later, once they realized that this case was far beyond them, was really when they started asking for help. And that's straight out of the sheriff's mouth, okay, of Lafayette. And so then it becomes like, okay, like for that Delphi, though, it would be more about ego and stuff like that, you know. And we're told with Delphi from the sheriff of Lafayette that the communication was basically non-existent. Everyone was arguing with everyone. This ISP wasn't getting along with this, and FBI was, you know, da. And then it becomes one of our
FBI. I mean, I don't know how we're getting on Delphi, but I would love to know where the FBI went. Like, how did that happen, Sonny? Where did they go? Because that I can't remember his name, but that FBI agent at the press conference said we will be here till the end, and then they were just gone.
Well, that's because in 2021, you know, Doug Carter, was it Doug Carter? Doug Carter ousted the FBI. So they were part of it, but they weren't getting along. Like, meaning it was all about control, and everyone was butting heads. And then so it just seemed, I guess, like Doug Carter just was like, you know, ding, bye, you know. So that's all I really know about that. When people say like the FBI, sorry,
when you have like in JonBenet's case, like John Ramsey was saying, they've replaced a lot of the investigators, and they've got almost a whole new roster of investigators now. So that's why everything is getting a fresh look, and things are actually moving forward, and he's confident this time. And a lot of times that's what it takes, because everybody's guilty of it. We get tunnel vision, right? So maybe it's time to let the FBI have a look at everything in Delphi.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, right, we just want it to be about the girls, and the girls deserve, you know, we don't give a shit about your guys' egos. This is a case, you know. And that kind of reminds me of Suzanne's case, like Barry, you know, because like to me, he knows he's guilty as shit, but whatever. But he didn't partake in Suzanne's thing. Like, it doesn't matter if you have grievances with the brother Andy, you know, this is your wife you're talking about. Like, why aren't you and your daughters literally out there helping find your freaking missing mom and wife? Like, come on.
That's right. Yeah.
Like, it just, for me, I just don't grasp that at all, because anyone that usually does something normal in life, which is, like I said, most of the world would do it a specific way, and people that have like eyes upon them in a sense, you know, do it a totally wacky way. And that's why the suspicion usually goes to them, especially in those cases where the husbands don't even, you know, there's more than just Barry Murphy. There's other cases too, high profile cases. The husband's just like, doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, how do you take someone's life? You're guilty of it. And yet in hindsight, you're like, it couldn't even be asked to help out the search. Gee, I wonder why people were looking at you, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, but so for John, for me, I'll say this: I cannot see, right? So looking at JonBenet, Patsy, and whatever, the two things that are hardest for me to get over is Patsy had this beautiful heart. I'm sorry, and I think you probably know this, Charmaine. Anyone that does Christmas in the way that she did, anyone that's like you could tell to me she loves her children. So that's for me. So for me personally, I just look at it like this. I know anyone that puts that much time into Christmas and makes everything, every room decorated. I know that those are the people that usually have a very much of a care. They make it because they live in that childhood that they loved Christmas and different things. And hence why she would do it all up. I see Patsy as someone that really loved her children. And as for John, you'd have to be a fool to sit there all this time if he was guilty, to me, to be going on all these, interviews and different things like that does not make sense, right? Meaning it just doesn't make sense. Like I know the conspiracy, will bring out that in some people, but to me it doesn't logically make sense in the world. Like meaning you got the extreme, you got, both sides, and then you kind of have what's deemed as what we consider normal. I can't see John sitting there keep fighting to fight for DNA and testing and all this stuff because he's a guilty man. It's not one of those things that typically happens, and it would be the small percent that would be like that. And a normal person would be fighting for justice, for answers and stuff like that. So after listening to these, I'm just again wanting to wait for the outcome. I don't know. I don't have anyone in particular that I feel did it. To be honest with you, I feel like there's some definite things that are very odd about JonBenet Ramsey's case, but I also know that what we know and what's truly there for evidence and everything is a whole different ball of wax to what we know out here, versus the information that they have, whether it was overlooked or anything like that. Just like Delphi. Like there's a lot more stuff going on than what we'll ever know until like trial. Yeah. So
You look at like the most common theory, I guess, or it's not. I guess the most common theory for people who think that Burke did it was, maybe he was downstairs getting a snack, playing with his train track, whatever. JonBenet came down, stole a piece of pineapple, and ticked him off. So he clubbed her with a flashlight, I think.
right.
And then mom maybe came downstairs. Oh my God, what have you done? And they proceeded to decide they've lost one child. Now they're going to protect the other child by covering this up. But she didn't die from that blow to the head, right? She died of strangulation. So they would have had to check for vitals. And if she would have had vital signs, so they would have called 911. I mean, none of it. It all fits together. That the CBS documentary that came out, I think in 2016, that was kind of geared toward showing Burke did it.
Yeah,
it all
I know
fit very nicely, and it made everybody think, well, that makes perfect sense. That must be what happened. These people are FBI profiler and Scotland Yard profiler, and this is legit. This is what happened. And if you step back from that and you start to really think about it, how ridiculous it is, especially to think of the injuries to little JonBenet that didn't have to be there for staging. To think of a mother or a father or an 8-year-old brother staging something to look like that. I'm sorry, but it didn't happen. There's no way that you can go from being a caring, loving, well-off family who loves their children to doing that. I mean, I don't want to get into what injuries I'm talking about, but I think you probably know.
Everyone knows.
That's not going to happen. And any parent, any reasonable thinking person, I don't think could honestly, truly believe that. But again, I always think everybody's common sense is
well. I think that kind of sometimes plays into it though, because I think like people that don't commit crimes and stuff like that, right? We typically have a very common sense, methodical, more thought about things, and kind of have a little bit of a like outside perspective. But then because we know, I think because people know that there's these really twisted cases out there, that kind of plays into it, because
Yeah.
everything just isn't pew pew gun whatever, or that did it like simplified in a sense. The ones that are called like more simple cases where you kind of just have this happen and then somebody's arrested because of this.
Yeah.
But because there's really some messed up cases out there, and I think as well on top of that, I wouldn't doubt if, say, True Crime Sleuth has helped in that, because there's a lot of true crime sleuths that know that conspiracies are what gives them clicks and views, and they play on those people that literally are sucked up into that stuff, because most people would rather believe in this conspiracy than this far-fetched. And that kind of happened in the Suzanne Morphew case too. Like, it was stretching all different ways, and it was just getting really odd at certain points, and I know that, kind of like Delphi, like, usually near the start of something is where usually the truth lies. And so with even Suzanne's case, I just tried to stay up the road, down the path that seemed logical. What happened, and not veer off to this person was involved and it was about the men's boys clubs and this clubs and this and stuff like that. And it's so I for the people that like to believe that somehow there's a lot more to it, when really a lot of times it's not that way, but there are some really disgusting, twisted cases out there. And I think that most, but I think
some of the things that the family did that morning, they're suspicious. Let's just be real. I don't know about the 911 call. Some people say they can hear voices when Patsy thinks she hung up the phone. I mean, I do hear something, but then there's also the point where, okay, Sonny, if you found a ransom note and you think your daughter is missing, are you going to go up and tell your son to stay in your room and don't come out until I tell you? Or are you going to keep your son right by your side? That struck me as odd. And then allow your friends to take your son away. That struck me as odd.
It's definitely, but so sometimes, so this is where sometimes I wonder where people sometimes with money have a different way of thinking, because like that's sometimes what I think, because I think for me, I feel like more grounded people, your child would be with you and you would not be you would not be letting that child out of your sight. Are you kidding me? If one's been abducted, you're literally going to send your other child off. So things like that are strange to me. But sometimes, I think that, and then not to say that it has anything to do with the Ramseys, but I also think that people that live in a more upper scale life sometimes get a little bit off balance of what's, not to say that the Ramseys are, but I'm just saying, from me personally, looking at some of these, rich families and stuff like that, or people that have money, and kind of like how they, with the Ramseys too, about how they instantly like did all this lawyering up and stuff. So they had access to do weird like stuff like that, which seems strange to the public eye about
calling
what they
his
were
private jet to take them to Michigan that day.
Right.
I mean, it's suspicious. It's suspicious.
And and the notepad, right? I mean, there's lots of things that are very definite that raise your eyebrow more than once or twice.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But the theory wouldn't have caught on and stayed strong as long as it has if there wasn't some substance to it. Doesn't mean that's what it is, right?
So that's why it's kind of like when I was thinking about how much do I want to deep dive into this, in a sense, it's kind of like, do I really want to go down, like I said, all these rabbit holes again, and knowing I'm going to come just like to Delphi to the point where you just simply don't know. You might have your own thoughts and suspicions, but you just simply really don't know. And it's kind of like with this, like with this case here, like your brain just keeps flipping. You watch one show, you're convinced that it was Patsy. You watch the next show, you're convinced it was Burke, perhaps. You watch another one and you're like, yep, and then you try to use your own common sense in there. And then all of a sudden I just feel like my head starts freaking spacing out because it's
Yeah.
like, no, I mean, there's just, it's one of those things that
You don't
no
have
proof.
a suspect then? You don't have a suspect?
Say
You
that
don't?
again?
You don't have a suspect
No, no,
for John? Like, you don't know. You don't have
no,
your person of interest or your POI?
no, mm-mm, never, no. It was, I always felt that it was an outsider, not an insider. Like from when I first heard about this case, I always felt it was like, I don't know, whether it was from the party or whatever that they were at or the house thing. I always felt like it was an outsider. I thought that it was strange when I saw that suitcase. That one struck me as odd because I felt like it was staged to look like that. Because it doesn't make sense to me even to this date. That that particular part of it. So because she was, set a certain way, I don't know. I always felt like that suitcase
Yeah.
was like staged. Like, not saying that it was from within the family. I just remember always thinking it was seeing that suitcase like lined up. It just never made sense to me, that suitcase.
Yeah.
Like, to me, you would just go out the freaking front door pretty much.
Mhm.
I mean, it's dark, whatever. I don't know. It just seems strange. So I've tossed between, like, I will say that for a long time, I would say, because things were so weird. And then the ransom note on her paper, and then somebody putting the thing, like, there was weird things, so I have thought that definitely it's within the family. Like, but yet there's, I thought it because there's a lot of things that showed that there was some very weird things. And, this is happening on Christmas, and when we've heard about, JonBenet peeing the bed story, we heard about, like I said, Burke and the flashlight. That's probably the one. If anything made the most sense, it was probably the fact that JonBenet was kind of like the child that was favored. If I had to just go by my own
Yeah.
thoughts, child that was favored. Burke Ramsey was jealous of the attention that she was getting because he was always doted on, and that she came down, took a piece of pineapple, like you said. He got angry, whacked her over the head with that, and then not to lose another child, perhaps. But that's really taking it to the extreme.
Yeah.
But
It's a stretch.
yeah, it's like definitely a bit of a stretch for sure. But yet it seemed like, if anything was the most logical to me, that was
Yeah.
probably the most logical of any of the stories. But by the same token, I didn't really know what was the truth anymore, because it just seemed like there's not enough pieces to, like, put it together. Even the handwriting, I look at it. There's lots of things that look like Patsy's style, but then there's lots of things that don't either.
Yeah.
Um, and I look at their personalities and what John's doing and what has been doing, and I think, no, like, this guy could not have done this. And as for Burke, yeah, I'm just going to take him off the plate, pretty much, to be honest with you, unless something ever says different. And as for Patsy, I look at her heart, and I see how, like I said, the decorations and stuff like that, and someone that really understands what caring hearts are will understand that someone that displays Christmas in the way that she did is someone that probably enjoyed crafts. Again, yes, some people might deem the whole. I mean, I personally was not a fan of. I'm not a fan of children looking like little miniature adults before their
Yeah.
years. I'm not a fan of it. Does that mean that that's abuse? No, I don't think so. Like, meaning some people can look at it like it was, abuse, or what contributed to her death. I mean, I just don't like seeing little children in into, like, it just is wrong to me. Like, to look at a little child with all this makeup on as if she's like freaking 30 years old, when really she's a 5-year-old kid. Like, if they're gonna have pageants, like, keep them being kids.
Let them be kids. When
You
that
know,
Toddlers and Tiaras first came out, before that I thought these little beauty pageants were cute, right? But I had no idea what went on behind the scenes. And then when that
yeah,
Toddlers and Tiaras came out, and you start to watch what these kids go through, it's like they're not. being allowed to be children, to be young girls. Like, to me, I would never do it. I would never judge anybody that does it, but that's not for me. Um, so one of the other suspects over the years that I just want to say a couple of things about because it was kind of interesting to me was Santa Claus. Now, I can't
Oh
remember
yes,
his
Santa
name.
Claus. Yeah, let's talk about
Remember
Santa.
his name off the top of my head, but he told JonBenet that Santa was going to pay her a special visit that night, and she was really excited about it. But while I was researching for my podcast, I found out that, well, he's a friend of the family, and one of the previous Christmases, I guess JonBenet gifted him a little vial of gold glitter. And after JonBenet died or was murdered, this little vial of gold glitter became very important to this man to the point where he had to go and have surgery. And he told his wife that if anything happens to me during surgery, I want you to put my ashes with this glitter and bury it with me. Which I was like, that's I don't know, that's a little creepy. It's a little creepy, but it's just interesting to me.
I know.
Because I don't think my suspect right now at this point, I'm 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 going with Gary Oliva. There's too many. I've learned my lesson with coincidences with Kagan. I really have,
Yeah,
but there's
yeah.
so many coincidences, and they've been going on since the day JonBenet was murdered with this guy. Um, and just because he was cleared for DNA, so was everybody else, and they're retesting it. So
Right.
yeah,
And that's why I will wait because when I seen Gary Leva or whatever his name is, like the thing that strikes me most is that just like I said, and then I heard Nancy Grace say the same thing. Like he writes in caps. That's his style. He writes in caps, and even the sample letters that she showed, like meaning that for me, that graphologist. I'm sorry. I felt like she totally made a mockery of herself when she showed the letters in comparison to him. Now, some of those other things, like you said, are very like the fact that he was only like a few blocks away and stuff like that. Okay, that I can handle. But I couldn't handle looking at that graphologist stuff because my main thing that I saw in what she was showing for the graphology part was just the A's, you know, he did some, but he was known for writing caps. And the stretch to me that she was doing on those letters, you know, Patsy Ramsey's letters are more similar to his letters. So that's so regardless, there's definitely some interesting things about him. Um, and who knows about Carr, but I'm just again gonna just let it play out and hopefully that if they put in some of the new or the old evidence that never got, you know, because they said something about it being very costly at the time, but with all the technology now, you know, hopefully with the evidence that they didn't test and with the 23andMe, um, I really hope that JonBenet's case has some answers in the next few years for sure. We'll see.
I'm just reading chat and Sissy.
Yeah.
She asked, didn't John Collin was going to go on the vacation? Plus, the lady
Um,
cop did an interview. That actually, yeah, we said that John actually did call his private jet, and he was trying to get his family to go to Michigan. That's where his grown children were. His explanation for that is he just wanted to get his family safe. He wanted to take them away from that. Right or wrong, I don't think it was a great idea. But then the
right.
part about, sorry, the lady cop. So who you're talking about is Linda Arndt.
Yeah,
She
Linda.
was the detective there at the beginning. She's the one that allowed all these people to traipse through through the crime scene. And when she was doing that interview, she had retired by then. And I don't care, retired or not, how unethical is it to go on TV and make that kind of a spectacle without saying, I believe John Ramsey did it? She's
Yeah.
trying to say that she was so scared of John Ramsey when he brought JonBenet up that she checked to make sure she still had bullets in her gun.
Right, I gotcha.
What
And then
exactly was he doing with his dead daughter's body that scared you so much that you had to check for your gun in that moment? It's, to
right.
me, it was just dramatic, and it was for the cameras. And if this case is never solved, I would be more than willing to say it's Linda Arndt's fault.
Right. Well, I was actually shocked by what she was saying, to be honest with you. Like,
Me too.
because without literally saying his name, like I mean, she said his name without saying his name.
Yeah.
In it.
She
I
knows
was actually,
who JonBenet, yeah.
I was kind of thrown off by that interview myself, but because I don't really care whether they say things that they shouldn't be saying or not. I just want the information that's coming out so
Yeah,
that
for sure.
we have more. It's kind of like in Delphi, when Murder Sheets got that interview. Well, it's because the prosecutors messed up, right? And they accidentally uploaded it, and that's how that got out there. And then Murder Sheets, because obviously they had like their own special whatever, probably notification thing, because being a lawyer and stuff like that, and whatever access they have to where the upload was, they were able to grab that and and put it out there. Other than that, if it wasn't for that mistake, we would have never have seen that interview stuff and whatever. So so it was one of those things, like selfishly, greedily, like, because like I said, I mean, if they're the ones going to put out information knowing that they shouldn't, or saying stuff that they shouldn't, just from a person that, you just want the information. The more
Yeah,
information
starving for information, especially with Delphi. Like that's what the big hubbub is, the secrecy.
Yeah.
That's why we take things
Yeah.
and we run with them, because we're starving.
I really wish that there was Grady's of the world, all over the place. People that are just very transparent. When you are a lot more transparent, you can hold certain things to the vest, right? Absolutely. But when you feel like there's double talking, like Delphi and stuff like that, you feel like you don't know who to believe anymore, because they're not consistent. And Brian Koberger's case has been, to me, very transparent, like, meaning it's quite been a lot of information coming out and different things. I just like it when there's the transparency there, and it stops some of this stuff in the tracks. But then you're always going to have the YouTube creators that are going to twist it around regardless, because either they're messed up in their own head, first of all, and have, or they just want it for clicks and views and stuff like that. But I just like truth and transparency, in at least that they're doing it that way to us, so that people at least are like, I cannot stand, the one thing I cannot stand is when they sit there, like with Delphi and what other case was that one, where they literally, well, you should know, I mean, you're adult enough, you guys should know what to think to be safe, kind of like Rachel Morin, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have no clue if this person is still around, like, just exactly say that, just be a little bit more transparent. Don't sit there and say, well, bring yourself a whistle, and okay, fine, okay, bring awareness, because some people, no matter what, never gonna happen to me. But it's like Delphi really bothered me so much. They had no idea if somebody else could have lost their lives, and they're just like, like, I mean, just use your own brains, you use your common sense. No, why don't you just say you don't know who it is? Be very careful. Like, how hard is that to say? Because they keep acting like that people are going to go into this whole big panic mode. If they say that, and I think that they're not.
There's too much speculation. Like, what do you think is going to happen?
Right. Anyways, I just wish there was a lot more transparency.
Yeah.
Certain people do it right, and I think I love the way Grady does his thing. I love the way he puts them on blast, puts their pictures right up there. Basically, like, here, look at this. Basically POS. This is what this person did. See this person here? This is what they did. And so I really love that stuff. when somebody is like that. There you go. Put them on blast. You know, I love that guy. You know who I'm talking about, of course.
I
right?
don't. I'm actually. Who is this?
Oh, you don't?
Yeah.
Grady, Judd. What's his name? Judd Grady. He's basically a sheriff of, I think it's Polka County, and he basically will get it. So when the sheriff typically talks at the press conferences and stuff. Well, he'll literally have the pictures.
Oh,
That guy, yeah.
okay. Yeah. I gotcha.
Right, and I just like his candidness. And basically he's like, look, see, here's another POS. This is what this person did, and he goes through them all because, again, almost like I don't like, to me, shaming them in a sense because they deserve it. Like, they did something wrong. Here you go. This is what I'm showing you. This is what they did, and on to the next one. This is what this person did. And it's just very transparent and truthful, in his talking. I love people like that are just, not trying to beat around the bush. Just, here you go. Here's the information,
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, so let's go to some of these comments here that
I'm
people
trying
are.
to follow what One Solved Mystery is putting down.
Say that again.
I'm trying to follow it. I think One Solved Mystery here is laying out another theory that I don't know that I've heard of.
Okay, which one's that? Okay, so anyone who hung up on that one? It's in demand. Oh yeah, that 118 demand. Look into Sandra Henderson.
Who was terminated for embezzling?
Say that again.
Who was terminated for embezzling? One Solved?
Terminated for embezzling goods from Access Graphics. Oh, the person. So remember at John's business?
Yeah.
There was that person that was terminated that was owed about 18 owed a remaining something about that. There was something about like money similar to the ransom as well.
Is this the guy that committed suicide?
No, I don't think so. I'm just trying to remember because there was this guy at John's work that got let go. I think I don't know if it was a partner. One Solved Mystery can expand on that perhaps because he's more knowledgeable about it. It's like I'm having the vague memories of knowing what he's talking about, but I couldn't say it concisely like he probably could.
Can I just answer Ray here?
Yeah.
Kidnapping was the plan. Why go to the basement? Well, with my suspects, Sonny brought up that there was that suitcase kind of positioned near the window. But Gary Oliva, in one of his many confessions, said that he had tased her and he was carrying her down the stairs to take her, and he dropped her. And she basically fell down the stairs, hitting her head on the floor. And it was an accident that she had hit her head, but he was trying to take her out the window. Do I believe that? No, but that's another thing that sticks in my head, because if she had that head injury first, from what I understand, there was no laceration on the outside of her head. There was no blood. So this 8-inch crack in her skull, there was no cut or bleeding or anything to it. So
right.
I've never dropped a kid down the stairs, so I don't know if their head would bleed if it had an 8-inch crack in it. I assume it would. So this very
right. And then when you watch that documentary, Charmaine, the documentary, and then they have that 9-year-old or whatever it was crack the skull, and then it pretty much looked verbatim. So it's hard sometimes to overlook those things because you're like, yeah, that's pretty much is the same crack, isn't it? And it's stuff like that because we're not, in the medical profession, at least I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what you do, actually, to be honest. And if you told me, as you get older, freaking amnesia kicks in. What?
Not the medical examiner in the case, but like a year later, I think it was Michael Baden who's really world-renowned medical examiner, forensic pathologist. On the ligature around her neck, just above those, these little half moon shaped red scars. The medical examiner who did the autopsy had said that that was petechia, right? Blood vessels from the strength of the ligature. But Michael Potter said it looked to him like maybe fingernail scratches, like she was alive, clawing at that ligature, trying to save her own life. So, but if that's the case, then the head injury didn't happen because that would be enough to incapacitate her. She wouldn't have been conscious to do that. So this is what I mean. There's just been so much by reputable people that make you think, that sounds about right. And then you hear something else and you think, well, that makes a lot of sense. And it all just conflicts with everything. So hopefully DNA will answer it all.
Well, I mean, I find the same thing though, like as in the true crime world, as people check out different channels, like you can go to Surviving the Survivor and he'll have his experts on. We can have Alexa, on Our Lives, who is, like I said, a criminal profiler, graphologist, body language expert. You can go watch the the profilers, whatever they're called again, the something panel, profiler panel, or whatever they're called again. And the thing is the behavior panel, thank you. But meaning you can go around to all these things, and same with the lady that did the graphology. Unfortunately to me, she's dealing with a couple of or that case is dealing with a couple little nut jobs there. And when I say that, I'm just talking about a couple people in particular that wrote a book about Ron Logan, and they just seem to, they're not credible to me. Let me put it that way. But as for the different experts, like a lot of them have, like I said, they're experts, and yet they'll have all these different opinions themselves. So that's why it's hard for me too, myself, because you're listening to experts, and yet there's all these different things that they're thinking, but yet that's their careers and that's what they do. But yet they got so many different answers of themselves. And I'm like, I can't even rely on you guys to give the same answers. Like, really. So that's what I find, for me, because these people are experts, and that's where you kind of look to. And that's why people get sucked up by these cops as well, like the police officers that are on doing true crime. Like I said, the same thing happens. I've known many of the police officers, and yet they all have different opinions about Delphi and the different stuff. And it's like,
lawyers too. They all have.
Oh yeah,
they all have different opinions on everything that comes out. It's actually
with all of them. Yeah, and it's interesting, but then, like I said, then I just bring it back to myself. Okay, what probably seems like to me, just like everyone else that watches true crime sleuths and stuff, what seems to be the most logical thing? Like what seems to, not that it's the right answer, but what seems to at least be the most logical thing. But with cases like JonBenet, your head just spins around in circles. Is it this person? I'm just glad that there's this advancement that seems to be going on with her case. That maybe one day will bring us closer, or to the answers. I mean, because if they exhaust the evidence, if after, say, maybe this stuff happens and they've exhausted their evidence, the DNA, I don't believe there's any hope for an answer to JonBenet's case. Someone leaves it in their will, with their DNA. I don't know.
If this doesn't work, then it's not. I mean, where else can you go? If this doesn't work, now they can do genealogical DNA testing. And if that doesn't lead anywhere, then literally, where else can you go?
Where can go,
so a confession's not going to cut it. So, you know what I mean? So
right. A confession just, kind of like the same thing with the Suzanne Morphew case. Will be, even though they found, say, Suzanne's body, will there be enough evidence to go with it, whether he did it or not? Is there anything that can attach him properly, it doesn't have a reasonable doubt. So you really need that hard DNA to attach to him, hopefully from the evidence. I can honestly say that as we're watching this 23andMe, I hope with the Rachel Morin case as well, that mother of 5, that lost her life to the case that matched in LA there.
Yeah.
Like I said, I really hope they go down that route as well, for the fact of that at least a family member can attach him back to the DNA. So I love how these old cases that had DNA stored, but the technology wasn't there, are now being
Yeah.
solved.
Amazing that they had that foresight, to
Yeah.
save it, not to waste it.
Yeah. It is because, again, hindsight always shows you just how much advancement has come along. So hopefully with JonBenet's case, there'll be some answers. Now, let's see here. We're just going to go, you guys, about another 15 minutes, and then I'm going to head off because my husband specifically said, honey, don't do a long live tonight, okay? He wants to spend some time with me, apparently. So, who am I to say no? Right?
So
And go ahead.
I've got my It's a Crime and Shame, Today is the Day Tumblr going here.
Oh, yeah. Here, hold on. Let me bring that up closer. When did you get that one?
When?
Yeah, like that was quite a while back.
Yeah, that was last Christmas. I got this one, and I got the white one I gave to my daughter.
Yeah,
really-
I think I was going to say, like, I don't know that one's even up there anymore, to be honest with you. I
The one
remember.
really- I love it.
I know. Sadly, because your coloring is very light, it's, yeah.
You can't really see.
I always just loved, like the legs, the picture of those legs. I mean, there still is the It's a Crime and Shame, stuff up, or sorry, the Abby and Libby stuff up there. You bought Sharon a blanket, which was, again, just a beautiful gesture. And Callie had bought me the blanket myself, because for me, honestly, like, even for me, to be honest, by the time, and you would know this, because of the dollar difference, because it's an American and stuff like that, I remember that it was just a couple things, and it was almost like the shipping and the conversion. When you're looking at something and you're just like, yeah, that's just too much, too rich for my blood. Meaning, normally, if I was back, whatever, okay, then it wouldn't be so much. But I have a hard time myself sometimes because I am Canadian. So when I see like the American pricing, and then on top of that, the shipping to go with it, because there's 3 places that say Fourth Wall is out of the United Kingdom, United States, and I think there's one other place. Might be just the 2, but I feel like there was 3 and stuff like that. But that Canadian dollar can just whack you. The only one benefit about being Canadian is that when somebody from the United States, say, sends $25, it turns into like $32. Other than that, like, that's the only real bonus about anything, is that YouTube pays out in the US, the dollar. But now if you're UK, it's gonna suck, because the UK's dollar is a lot better than the American dollar. So instead of theirs going up, theirs actually goes down in a sense, So
imagine what the shipping charges would be to the UK, because
but they have a base out of there. Yeah, they have a base out of there, out of the UK. The Fourth Wall does, and I see that they've added a few more things on there. To be honest, not a lot. I just wish that I wish that they did have. I wish that they had like the bands. Oh yeah, look at you! You're all freaking It's a Crime and Shamed up. The Ice Queen, yeah. And I specifically made that one with basically like you and Canadians in my mind, because we know how cold it gets out here. Yeah, and then down the sleeve. for me, I've always liked writing on the sleeves or some sort of design on the sleeves. But I actually like the hashtag kind of line. But
It's
I was
my most comfortable hoodie. Like I love this
uh,
hoodie.
oh, aw, that's so nice that as you say that. Yeah. Um, so thank you so much for showing that though, because sometimes I forget about it myself. Actually, to be honest with you. Um, what was I going to say? Oh well, what else is for like I said, we're gonna wrap this up soon here. Just because again, like I said, my husband's like, and plus I have to thank you guys, Sharon Parker, you're freaking spoiled this week. You know, like there was one time Sharon, the one that you bought the blanket for, she messaged me on Messenger, and Sharon doesn't usually message me on Messenger too much. And she's like, "Are you gonna do a live tonight?" This is when I was only maybe doing one or two a week, you know, one possibly two a week, I think. And then she's like, like, "Are you gonna do a live?" And because Sharon loves to come into the lives, yeah. And I'm just like, I've done one pretty much every day this week.
Hmm.
I go through my what sorry, Charmaine, what sign are you again? What's your zodiac sign?
Taurus.
Okay, you're a Taurus, but you're a female Taurus. You're not the male
Taurus.
Taurus.
I don't know if y'all can tell. I'm a little bit outspoken, maybe a little harsh, rough around the edges.
That's how I am. But see, you can let's come on over to the Cancer category. You have what I call the Cancer. It's not usually, honestly, it's not usually normal that someone says that they're Taurus too much. Usually, it will always be a Pisces or what's the one? Pisces, Aries, or Libra. Libra. Um, to usually hear a Taurus is more rare for me because usually people for the females fall underneath of the um, Pisces and those are the ones I know for sure. Like I don't know my zodiac besides myself really, but I do know just over time that certain signs are very similar. So usually the people in chat when I ask them what their sign is and stuff like that, it's usually Libra, Aries for females typically. And well, if I'm a male, because my husband's Cancer, I just know what say my personality is, and when I'm looking at listening to you, like there's obviously differences somewhere, but again, you imbue a lot of the same traits that I do. You know, I never always, like I said, was this way, feisty and stuff like that. Like I was feisty, but I just what can I say? I do
I
not
think
like
it's got a lot to do with age, though, Sonny, because honestly, 10
yeah,
years ago, I wouldn't
right.
have been caught dead on a webcam Skype call with one other person with no makeup on or nothing. I mean,
I get
but
you.
now
Yeah,
it didn't even, whatever.
I got
Sure,
whatever.
it's very freeing to be able to speak. And somebody
Yeah,
said that this is very controversial, some of the stuff that I said, and I can't help it. I don't have the capacity in me not to be authentic anymore. I just
right,
it's who I am. And
right.
if you
Yeah,
like
I
me.
was.
And I think that comes also from having such a small circle. I don't have anybody around me telling me you can't say that.
Say
That's
that,
not,
do this, do that.
you
In fact, I don't like that. Like,
know,
worry about what you're doing. Don't worry about what I'm doing. Again,
yeah,
it becomes about accountability, right? Like, mind your own business. Say what you want to say, but as long as it's kept respectful, that's all I
right.
care about. Just be kind and respectful. And you can have a totally different opinion. You can totally believe that it was say Patsy or John or whatever, but just respect that other people have opinions beyond yourself, and that you can literally put out a question just fine without being a D or a B about it.
Right.
And
At the end of
that's
the
my
day, always remember that the only thing that we know for sure, and I don't care if we're talking about JonBenet Ramsey or Delphi, the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know shit. We don't know
right,
shit. We
right.
think we know, but we don't know anything. I'm sorry I swore. I'm sorry. But
No, it's okay.
okay.
I've said shit a few times. But YouTube has actually been very good lately. Um, they've obviously tweaked. I can tell that they've obviously tweaked their a little bit of censorship going on, because it was so frustrating. So now I can at least say I'm a lot more happier, because there's nothing worse than when you're doing something and this is considered your job in a sense, and you put way more hours in it than just a regular person going to work each day and stuff like that, and you know that you're getting maybe $1 or $3 off of a freaking video. Most people do donations, that's different, but typically a live for someone like for this, right? Like basically you can kind of count on $3 for 1,000 views, pretty much. So when you put your heart and your soul into something, and every time you turned around, it was like yellow, yellow, yellow. It's just like, you know what? These are things that all the news stations talk about all day long. Like
Yeah.
you got like YouTube. So I feel like they must have had a lot of complaints, because I've noticed even some of the bigger channels, like they're like million channels, were complaining a lot about how YouTube was giving them a lot of yellows or demonetizing their stuff and stuff like that. So I feel like they've tweaked it, and they did just put out a video about tweaking certain things, but I've noticed it because almost 100% now, I think it's been 100%, that the videos have been green, like, so you can say certain words, but even I sit there and go murder now, there you go,
Yeah.
murder, instead of
Oh,
red rum.
Started up again, just reading stuff and saying words.
Yeah, it's just when you do a lot of work, it's really deflating.
And censorship. Like
Yeah.
even podcasts now, the Canadian government is going to try to
Oh, I see.
regulate podcasts. So something I really have to look into, because I make $0 on my podcast, and my daughter and I just do it because we enjoy it, and it's kind of become a hobby, something that we do every
Yeah.
weekend. But for people that do that full time and they're relying on their content to put
Yeah.
food on the table, the Canadian government should be able to regulate stuff like that.
Basically, what I didn't read it, but basically what I saw with the Canadian government, I mean, although they did their thing, and so on Facebook now, just like you'll see, it will say, this isn't available in your country. This content is not available. Shut up, Canada. But now they're basically saying that any platform that makes over $10 million, you have to register with Canada, because basically they're saying, look, that Google and all that, they make all this money off all these platforms and whatever, and they're saying, no, it's not really fair that you guys are sitting there taking all this money for all these billions and billions of dollars for yourself,
Mhm.
and we think that we deserve a piece of the pie, like that other countries deserve a piece of the pie, because it's almost like monopolizing something. And it's like, no, I mean, you got all these platforms as well here and stuff like that, so
So, like for YouTube, do you consider yourself a platform? Like, is every channel a platform? Because with podcasting, I'm not the platform, right? I pay a membership fee to a podcasting
no,
platform, and they help
YouTube
me
is a
first.
YouTube
Oh,
is a platform.
okay.
Facebook,
Yeah.
Insta, like those are platforms. We're not the platform; they are. So that's pretty much who they're talking about, like YouTube. Whoever wants, like I said, that they want a piece of the pie. So that basically any of those big platforms that make over 10 million, they're not talking about us. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're talking about the actual platform.
But
That
I mean, those platforms are going to be the ones that have to decide for us what we can and can't cover. Do you know what I mean? So if it's anything
yeah,
like the news ban,
yeah,
I would be able to cover an American true crime case. There's plenty going on in Canada, I know, but it's not the same. We
I
don't have the same access to our court system as like even Canadians do to the American court system. You know,
yeah.
good luck
Hi,
trying to
Alex.
find a transcript in Canada.
Well, as long as we just have our I'm not into government stuff. Like, it hurts my brain. But as long as they don't take away, I mean, I'm sure at some point they're going to be going, if you have a platform on YouTube or anything, as like meaning like us, you need to register it or da 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 da, and then YouTube's gonna send out some freaking forms you gotta do if you wanna, I don't know. I don't know where it's all going, to be honest with you. I'd actually have to know a lot about that side of politics and all that. And I haven't read it. I keep meaning to read it, just to see what that last one kind of said. I got the gist of it just by the little bit that I read, but I don't know.
So I haven't looked into it at all. My heart kind of stopped because I thought, like, I mean, we would just stop because I'm not playing that game. And like you guys that
Yeah.
have to go through all this censorship and stuff, you're better people than I am because I won't play the game. I just won't do it.
Yeah, I'll have to read it fully, Charmaine, to see what it all entailed. I just don't like reading stuff. Honestly, I
I
don't.
like reading stuff to me. That's why you guys have to do like lives every night, so I have something to fall asleep to.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that like, and that's probably why. I mean, I read stuff, or I would rather listen to stuff. Like, I would rather listen to News Nation than read an article, type of thing. And it's probably because that between social media and YouTube and just all the different things like fourth wall and figuring out how to do things in OBS, your brain just becomes exhausted as one person. Like out there that have their platforms and they got their husband and stuff helping them. My husband couldn't be asked, okay? He literally couldn't be asked this thing. It doesn't interest him, and he does not believe in being talked into doing something that doesn't interest him. He'll help me if I ask him something. But if he's just not into it, he's not into it. So it's kind of like I'm just like a solo bird with it. I try to learn what I can, but yet knowing there's so much there I should be doing or could be doing. But I get tired of trying to learn all these different things, like meaning there's so much of it, um, between all the different things. Like my brain starts hurting now. And as you get older, like I said, you can only, before my brain used to retain a lot of things very easily. Now for it to hold information, I could literally watch a podcast and totally forget it the next morning about what I remember hearing. Whereas before it wasn't. Anyways, it's tiring when you got one person. Some people have their husbands, their nephews, their family to kind of help them out, and I can see that happening on certain channels, and other channels are just really good at social media. And, because they're younger and stuff like that. And they grew up when basically Snapchat came out and stuff like that. Old school guys, ICQ here. Remember ICQ? Do you remember ICQ?
Yeah, I totally do.
Yeah.
I was ICQ. Yeah.
And Irk chat, and stuff like that.
My kids, I have no choice but to be on Snapchat because I get constant flow of grandbaby pics on Snapchat.
I made an account once because my boss at the time had it, and she's like, "You gotta try Snapchat." And I literally used it like once, and I'm like, couldn't be asked. I'm like, I got Messenger, I got all these different ways of communicating. What the frick do I need all these things? And then, of course, it comes bite you in the butt. That, like, I mean, it took me a while to get used to Twitter. Now I'm kind of used to Twitter. I'm not really used to Instagram, but I understand it a little bit.
I don't.
And TikTok, yeah. It's just meaning again, because it's what we like. A lot of YouTubers, right? Like the old school people. Like I said, it's a lot. It's a lot on our brains to sit there and that we weren't born into that era. A lot of these YouTubers are, born into their phone in their hand. All these different Snapchat stuff and whatever. Anyways, okay. So you guys.
So Andrew Broom actually had a really good idea, Sunny, and I don't know how you feel about it, but Andrew, we talked before about making the Sunny and Shar show, but we could do like Canadian true crime.
What's that? So Charmaine, has been nice meeting you. Would love it if you and Sunny could maybe cover some Canadian true crime. Yeah, I'm not against it. Like even if it was just once a week type of thing. Because I do like have a lot of shit that goes on in my everyday life. And like meaning I don't even make enough time for the stuff that I really should be doing, to be honest with you. And it's because I get invested in watching a lot of the cases that are going on, even if I don't report on them. And then the other channels. But yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, Charmaine, I was literally just thinking that I would even like, I'm not sure, because in my head the other day I was thinking like, even if it was like one day set aside for here, but you would probably want it separately. But if it depends if you're into the money motivation of it or not, because we could easily do a Canadian crime day on here each week if we wanted to, or
I'm not interested in the financial side of things.
yeah.
This is your channel. This is your thing. My podcast is kind of my thing, and if it grows into something that can make money one day, so be it. But that's not. I have a full-time pain in the ass job that one day I'll get to retire from. But I mean, I'm happy doing what I do. So
I was gonna say, like, I mean, I wouldn't mind if you were interested. I wouldn't mind just kind of starting off, like, meaning just having a day on here where we talked about a true crime case. If Charmaine has a one day during the week that she does, and if it becomes something that turns into like a channel on the side, then I wouldn't mind that. Only because I got like freaking 4 other channels, to be honest, that I really should be working on as well, and I don't. But I have been thinking about the fact of not covering Canadian true crime, and those are viewers that like me. I'm Canadian, yeah. I was freaking standing. I have a picture. Do I have it? Oh, 1 second, Charmaine. Let me just quickly find.
I've heard so many people say that Canada doesn't have as much crime as the States, which fair enough, but our population is a lot smaller too.
Right. We definitely do have crime.
After doing these podcast episodes, I gotta tell you, some of the crimes that happen in Canada are so much more twisted and brutal and not heartbreaking because they're all just as tragic, but some of the Canadian criminals and some of the things that they do, I mean,
oh yeah, I'm sure.
So disturbing. So disturbing.
Well, I mean, like I said, did you before? I'm not sure if you remember, but did you ever hear about, like I said, the one that I've brought up a few times about my own family, about the paper bag, RAPIST, paper bag. Do you ever remember about that story?
I don't think I've heard you talk about it. No.
Okay. Yeah. So, like I said, that was a huge thing because he did that for 20 years or whatever it was. And then eventually started making people put bags over their faces. We were at the start of when he started a spree of RAPING children and stuff like that. What I wanted to show you as a Canadian, so was this dude right here. So we were at in Langley down at the police station for Ryan's immigration for his criminal record check or whatever. Even though they said we were supposed to get fingerprints, but we didn't need to, so thank goodness he didn't. But anyways, so my husband and my brother-in-law, they laugh at me because I'll pretty much walk up to anybody, and I was like, so not him, but there was a lady and a gentleman as we were getting into the vehicle as we were leaving, and so these ones are called what is it? Starts with S. Suckers. It looks like a Mountie, but it's frick, I can't think of the word. It's not like a normal word. It's like SU something, like SUC something. But anyways, so there was this, I know I can't think of the word all of a sudden. I lost the word. But anyways, so there was this gentleman, older gentleman, and he was standing in the vehicle, and I was like, hey, do you mind if I get a picture with you and whatever, or take your picture? And then he's like, the lady's like, no, for whatever reasons, he couldn't have his picture taken. And she's like, well, you know what? Let me run inside and go see if there's somebody that can come outside or that can come out and then you can, take the picture. To be honest with you, if I had to redo it, I'd probably have recorded him and asked him a few questions. I wasn't expecting to do that. And so, anyway, so my husband and that are laughing at me and I'm like, what? And they're like, you just talk to anybody, don't you? And I'm just like, yeah, because I don't care. Yeah, if I want a picture, I'll ask for a picture. And so of course they're in a rush going, because like literally, Charmaine, they gave my brother-in-law this freaking list. We need this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. It was ridiculous. I was like, why don't you give us that list on Friday when we were there? Like, seriously? Like, why didn't you, and we need this all by Friday, they said. Thank goodness, like this list we were able to get done yesterday. But anyway, so we were going about different places, and then one of the places we went to Walmart. And then I'm sitting there seeing all these, those little pigeons around. They're all they're not even budget. They're just literally eating. They could care less if I was standing beside them. So I'm sitting there so my husband that's in the car because I'm like, okay, well, I'll just start walking over to London Drugs because it's just right beside Walmart, a little further down. So I sit there with my recorder, getting some video of the pigeons and whatever, because I'm just thinking it's cool. Like, these things are not moving. They don't care. Right. So a couple times I went, and then they go, but they didn't really move too far. They could have cared less. So they're very much like people person pigeons or whatever. But we were just kind of doing multiple things yesterday, and I just sit there and talked with people and whatever. But when I took this gentleman's picture, like I said, I am proud to be a Canadian. And I should be covering more Canadian cases. My intent wasn't to be into true crime, but, like I said, as we were going home, right? And I have a video of that. So as we were going home, all of a sudden, there's about 1,000 of this uniform and some other ones. So they must have had some big event going on, because all of a sudden my husband's like, look. So in the video, I'm like, he's like, okay, take a picture or whatever. And I'm like, oh shit. Because all of a
And they
sudden,
were all in their Mountie uniforms?
yeah, But I was like, hold on, give me a second again. Talk amongst yourself. Talk amongst the people that are talking. I gotta find this. I gotta send this because I'll show you. One sec.
Yeah, there's Paul and Carla, of course. There's Robert Picton. Another one, Russell Williams. It's very disturbing. There's Clifford Olson. He was a child serial killer back in the 80s. Yeah, there's a lot. We've got Douglas Garland. He's pretty brutal. Killed his grandparents and little boy a couple of years ago. There's some pretty twisted, and then just some one-offs, but random killings, or not even random killings, but teenagers killing their friends, and I don't know. We just have some very twisted people. We had a work camp near where I live, and I live very remote, but a work camp in the oil and gas industry. This was just a couple of years ago, and we had a guy working out there as a chef, and he was an unmedicated schizophrenic who snapped, and he went on kind of a murderous killing spree throughout the work camp in a very remote area. So, yeah, and a lot. And then we can never forget to mention the Highway of Tears, where dozens and dozens of Aboriginal women are missing. Nobody's been charged. Nobody's been found. There's still debate whether or not it's one person or not. But all of those cases needs coverage, needs the limelight. We've had Cody Lejabakov. He killed a few girls, women. Robert Picton, yeah, he's the worst. And these things, and I don't know what it is about Canada, but they have, they seem to have like a ripple effect. Because I live in a small community, and I'm not far away from where the Highway of Tears actually starts. But I know people who know who have family members who have disappeared. I used to work with a guy whose sister was one of Robert Pickton's victims, so it just, the ripple effect of, and I don't know if it's like that in the States or not, but it seems like in Canada, somebody knows somebody that something terrible has happened to. And just like me with my brother and that whole, it's a high profile in Calgary and Alberta. It's
The
amazing.
Picton case, yeah, that's the one that was just down when I lived in Coquitlam. That one was just down, like down in Port Coquitlam or whatever it was, just down like 10 minutes away. That whole
Yeah.
Picton thing. Yeah, you talk about that one, right? The pig farmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of going
Yeah.
through some of the Canadian true crime cases that
Yeah.
stick out to me as some of the more brutal.
Yeah. I just want the channel to be more diverse. We have people from England. We have a lot of Americans. Like for YouTube. Okay, like there's like when you're a YouTube creator, it actually shows you how much you get paid if for this country or this country in a sense. And the highest one, I believe, well, it depends on the channel. Like this channel, during the Nicola Bullock case, it was mostly UK generated views and stuff like that and money. But UK, USA, are really the two like prominent, I believe, two prominent kind of ones. Whereas if you get, say, let's say you're covering freaking Zimbabwe, well, you're probably going to get like probably 5 cents per 1,000 views or something like that, so YouTube as a creator, they give you a lot of the geographicals of everything, like meaning like you can see where your audience is and kind of like how much each country. So meaning anyone in a different country, you're smart to cover the US because there's always stuff going on there, right? In the US.
Yeah.
Like,
and yeah.
But Canada, Canada doesn't rate, of course, on that same scale because, again, our population is hugely different.
And I mean, I don't know what the population is like in the States, but I know that in Canada, we literally have one person per, or sorry, 4 people per square kilometer is our population. We have one of the largest land masses in the world.
Well, we're talking about 35 million versus 350 million, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty much the ratio there. Huge difference. We have this big land that's very open in a lot of places, kind of like in Whitecourt and your area where you live and stuff like that. But it's like, I mean, like for people across the pond, even, UK has a lot of stories. But really, most YouTubers will cover US cases because that's really, like, honestly, that's where the dollars are at. But that's where just a ton of cases are from. I mean, the US does not lack anything when it comes to cases. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Like even me right now.
Some of their cases are James Bulger. Gosh, what are their names? Myra Hingley, Fred and Rosemary West. Bray just did a 2-part episode on Fred and Rosemary West on our podcast. And that, I thought I knew everything there was to know about that one, and that blew my mind.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
mean, I don't think it matters where you are. There's true crime, and
yeah, I just want to be diverse. I want to, I feel like as a Canadian, I should properly be covering some Canadian cases because there are some very interesting cases here. So in my head, because I'm still figuring out, like, meaning I'm still learning so much about YouTube and people and graphics. I'm not one of those people that literally sits there and goes and looks at my graphics and all and how well a video did and stuff like that. I usually just do my videos, know that I come across these things, but I legitly don't do what I probably should be doing. Oh, look who snuck in here. Hold on a second. 1 second, Adam. Hey, Princess. Let me just play this clip because this is what I'm going to show you. See how that red in the video? Let me just I'll make it. So this is as we were kind of heading towards home, but we weren't going back home yet. And so. Okay, go, sir. Oh, my God. Get. Ready? No. Okay. Oh, shit. Look at them all.
Okay.
Sorry about the wind. Oops, sorry about the wind there, but because I was like, my phone wasn't out the window, but at the start that you kind of quite didn't see was there was just a ton. I think they're called circas. Circas, that's the word. Circas in the red uniforms. There's, your Mounties, your, of course, your police officers and the different ones and stuff like that. But all of a sudden we're driving and my husband's like, look ahead. And he's like, get your phone out. And all he kept saying is, get your phone out, quick, quick, quick. So I was holding it at the window, but not out the window. And, so it was kind of like, at the last second, I was like, turned it on. And I'm like, holy shit, because I wasn't expecting that. Hey, buddy.
They even had bagpipes going. So
Yeah.
Or you didn't hear what was going on?
No, I mean, I was literally.
What were they doing?
I don't know what event was going on. I never even looked it up. I just meaning I was literally talking. So basically the guys in red, they'll attend, if you're in immigration, for instance, they'll be there for when somebody becomes a Canadian. They'll be there for certain diplomas and different things like that. But anyways, so he never even mentioned that there was something going on. And so I have no idea what yesterday was even about. And I meant to look it and I didn't. But anyways, so yeah, it's like for us here in Canada to see the sea of red and then, black and all that and all these people in their uniforms. I don't know what the heck was going on, because we seen this one guy that was a Mountie as we were driving up and we had left. And I said, well, that's odd. There's this old man, and meaning an older gentleman, walking with his Mountie uniform on. And he's just walking down the side of the street on the highway. And I'm like, huh. And so when we got to that, I'm like, well, that dude's still way back there, so he's still got a ways to walk. And so, like I said, never even expected. So if there's a Canadian in here that can tell me what that was about.
Are the guys in the red, they're not the Mounties? Because I thought they were the Mounties in the red and the hats.
Those are Mounties, yeah.
Circas. The guy that I just showed you. Pardon? Maybe.
Uniforms those are Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Well, that's what I thought.
That's what I thought.
So going back to,
we've all seen the picture.
Right here, right? So I was gonna say, to me, this is a Mountie. And so
the uniform is the circus.
Yes. Okay. Right. Okay. Because that's what I didn't understand. Because I said, I don't think I've ever really remember seeing your uniform before. Because I was looking for the typical up and down.
So what's
thing.
the difference between a Mountie and a circa?
I have no idea, Adam. No idea.
So the clothes that he's wearing, I believe the uniform itself is called a circa, but he is a Royal Canadian Mounted Police, which is a federal police.
Okay, I got it.
I can't honestly say that I was ever up close to a Mountie. I've seen Mounties on their horses going down the road on the highways sometimes, because usually Mounties will be down the highways,
I'd like to be
so that's usually when I've seen them. So but literally have one standing in front of me, I can't say that I ever had that happen before in my lifetime, besides at a parade, like a Calgary parade or something like that. Anyways, all I'm saying is we have some good maple syrup too over here, people.
I'm gonna come to Canada and get up close and personal with a Mountie.
Yeah.
They seem so larger than life, even the shorter ones when you're standing beside them. I don't know, maybe it's just me.
Yeah.
Law enforcement, but they all just seem so larger than life when they're dressed in their.
Honestly, yeah. I was sitting there taking pictures inside the police office, and my husband's like, "You can't do that," and I'm just sitting there going, "Clack, clack, clack," and I said, "It says no recording, it says no video." I'm like, "Taking a picture is not a video, honey." He's like, "Yes, it is," and I'm like, "No, it's not." And he's like, I said, "Am I Canadian or are you Canadian?" And he's just like, "I don't care. It says no video recording of, type of thing." I'm like, "I'm not. I'm taking pictures. Different story." Click, 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 click. Seriously, I was just doing one of those things where, you look like you're texting and you're just going click, 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 click.
Anyways, you have
Anyways,
the volume off and they can't hear your shutter.
right. Well, I was gonna say right, and you couldn't, right? Because my thing was off, so I couldn't hear. Because there's sometimes that I've taken pictures of. But anyways, proud to be a Canadian as well. So I figured that it's time to start covering some true crime Canadian cases. Yeah. So my husband can laugh at me all he wants yesterday because he's like, they're like, you're not getting us to stand for him, and I'm like, come on, and they're like, nope, not happening.
So CERCA stands for Canada's Environmental Emergency Service Alliance.
Yeah. Charmaine, are you wrong?
Probably.
I googled it. That's
What are their coats called? And their
what are their what?
pants or whatever. Coats
What are their what?
Their coats and their pantaloons, I think they're called. I don't know.
Yeah, pantaloons. They're called pantaloons. I remember that from RuneScape.
This is a task force comprised of members from the Chemistry Industry Association, the Transport Canada, railway carriers, Canadian Pacific Railway, and Canadian National Railway, as well as many emergency response contractors across Canada. Other organizations that join the task force include the Canadian Fertilizer Institute, Canadian Trucking Alliance, Responsible Distribution Canada, and the Railway Association of Canada.
Yeah, sorry. The outfit, the RCMP's red uniform is a surge, not a circus.
Okay. Yes, CERCA stands for the Canadian Emergency Response Contractors Alliance.
Because I was just going to say, like, I'm just going to show you a picture quickly, you guys.
So this isn't a costume, Sunny, that you were photographing because their uniforms are.
Say that again, Charmaine?
Was that not a RCMP officer that you were photographing?
No, like it was whatever he called himself. I don't know. He's like, he was saying that they go to graduate. Like, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know the difference. This is a Mountie, though, what I'm showing you now. So that's what I was looking for. Sorry, let me come back to the StreamYard. So this is what I was looking for on the side of their arms was this. That's why I was like, Like I was looking for like the Mountie symbol, which was like this symbol that's how I thought. So their outfit was like his is like this, right? With stars. So theirs are different, but the same, but different. These ones have like patches, the V. So I don't know my freaking like seriously. I just know that red meant Mountie, and that anything else that was blue or black, whatever, was like a police officer.
I'm a little surprised that they have such similar uniforms. Like, is the CERCA law enforcement of any kind?
Surges, you said, or
these are kind of ceremonial, like police uniforms. They don't go around, in their cruisers wearing this outfit. This is ceremonial, right?
You see these guys; they would be on the highways with these uniforms on their horses. Typically, when I've seen a Mountie, it's usually been traveling from Alberta to like Saskatchewan, and I've seen only on the highways, typically the Mounties, besides at certain events like the Calgary Parade and stuff like that. But I'm very not schooled in our police officers here about, I just know red meant Mounties and, that's it.
Anna Broom, I think it was. It's
Anna,
called Saskatchewan.
Yeah, Saskatchewan. Yeah. I feel like Saskatchewan is truly where they house Bigfoot. The Yeti. I feel like
it's too flat there. You can see straight across the province from one end to the other. There's no hills or nothing.
I've actually listened to several podcasts on missing Saskatchewan or Indigenous. A lot of times they're called, but a lot of times it's in the Saskatchewan region.
Yes.
Women that have gone missing and children that have been illegally well,
residential schools.
yeah. So I've listened to quite a. It's been a couple of years, but I for a while was on a big Canadian kick with all the injustices that were happening to
To the
Indigenous and Saskatchewan people
Yeah.
On the reservations there, and the children especially.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I mean there was a systematic
Saskatoon.
horrible things that were happening with children being taken from people and then adopted to U.S. families.
Well, the Catholic Church was taking them to make them, I guess, I don't know the proper politically correct way to say it, but they were taking them from their reservations and putting them with white families to try to Canadianize them.
Yeah. And then they were like sending them to the U.S. and letting them be adopted without any paper trail, so that the families could, still to this day have trouble finding them, 30, 40 years later.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
Finding like mass graves, even like in BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, all across the country, mass graves of these mostly young children that were part of the residential school system that the Canadian government and the Catholic Church thought was the right thing to do with the native problem back then.
Right.
Well,
And
hence
again,
why we just had Truth and Reconciliation Day to
Right.
commemorate.
And
the-
I get that there were, there are issues with poverty and poor families and not being able to support the children, but in some instances. But then, to take them and, have them just literally shipped across the border into the United States and adopted by families. It's, and then the amount of missing females typically from Indigenous tribes and reservations in Canada is so sad and hard to track because, it's such remote areas in some instances, and really just a lack of people caring outside of the reservations.
That's right. There's so many cases, like whether they're connected to the Highway of Tears or just the random, Amber Turco is another one that happened just outside of Edmonton. She was Aboriginal, and clearly the police basically saw the color of her skin and where she was from, and they didn't take it seriously. They even took her off the missing persons list until they found her remains.
A huge trafficking issue there. And trust me, I'm not, like, I would never consider myself to be a bleeding heart. But I mean, I read some of the stuff that I've read that have happened. It's hard to stomach.
It is. And it all deserves a platform. It all deserves the limelight. So if you guys are into doing a weekly or bi-weekly Canadian true crime thing, you want me to come on board?
Yeah. Tackle a case. Like I said, I just want the channel to be more diverse, right? Have some of the Canadian followers, considering I am Canadian. Have the American followers, have the UK followers, just wherever, right? But I honestly feel like at this point that I should be looking at Canadian ones. Like it's just because before the intent of the channel didn't really have, say, a direction. It was just covering, Suzanne Morphew and then Delphi. But just looking into the future and stuff like that, we just
How dare you look at U.S. crimes? Why don't you focus on Canadian crimes?
I know.
Stick to your own kind.
Yeah, right, Kelly. Right. That he's going off for that live from that one. Stick to your own country, basically. You're fat. You're fat.
Oh,
you're fat.
Yeah, right.
He's just referring to another one of the comments, right? I always find that so ignorant. Remember when we were covering Nicola Bully, and then the odd random person would come in and be like, "You don't know nothing about anything over here," like as if the UK could only talk about the UK, and that's just stupidity and ignorance at its finest and stuff like that.
Everyone's gonna get that. I see that even with like Gizla True Crime, who's it has an enormous platform now. But people are even like, oh, what are you, South African living in the Netherlands living in the Netherlands, covering American crime. Ugh.
Oh,
What do
right.
you know?
Like,
Yeah, it's just ignorance.
go
It's just
scratch.
ignorant. You know,
Go to
it's just
different
ignorant.
channels, I'll
Stupidity.
listen to
Yeah. We want Canadian stuff. We want Canadian stuff. Which one's
We want
anyways?
Sorry.
We right. At least if we covered true crime cases in Canada, we'll get Charmaine, or if it's in Alberta, we'll be like, Charmaine, come on now, boots on the ground. Let's go. Let's
Boots
go.
on the ground. Yeah, that's all. That's all. There is. I don't care what anybody says. There is a serial killer traveling between Edmonton and Calgary, and I think they might have just caught him outside of Chestermere.
Oh, really?
Oh,
But the Canadian court system, once they're arrested, we're not going to hear shit until it goes to trial, and even then, we're going to hear
Yeah.
from Nancy Hicks over Twitter. Like, we don't
Right,
have
right.
access. It's no press conferences and nothing. But
Right.
yeah.
It's totally different over here.
we get spoiled. I say we get spoiled by that in the U.S. so much to the point where like part of me in the last 2-3 days has been like, oh my gosh, why has there not been a Charlotte Senna press conference?
Yeah.
Like since the governor did that press conference that night, like
Right.
why have we not had another press conference?
Just kind of expecting it because it just happens. Like,
Right.
it's just so open.
Like, we need the information.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, you guys, I need to get going though myself.
Yeah.
I don't know if you and
Yeah.
but I need to get going. Tomorrow is Delphi night. Alexa will be on tomorrow for Delphi. And yeah,
Will Debbie joining us?
Never asked. Right.
Sunny.
I'm like, well, no, I mean she can. I don't like. I think I had for something that other things are more last minute. But Debbie joins us sometimes. But if she wants to, she can, of course. Always the more the merrier. Like. But I just don't like Deb does her own thing as well, so we can ask her if she wants to. I always like to have conversations with when there's different guests and different people on for different opinions and stuff like that. So yeah. Hey, Deb, if you're listening, if you want to come on tomorrow night too, you can. Yeah. How much do you know about Delphi, Charmaine? Like,
I've been following it for 6 years, but
so you've been following it the whole time.
Oh yeah,
Pretty much.
absolutely, obsessively. Yeah, that's how I found your channel back when you were Sunny Justice.
Oh yeah, Sunny, you're right.
Back in the Pink Panther days.
I was gonna say, so you're heading off to Calgary tomorrow. I think you said for Thanksgiving, correct?
Yeah, I'm having Thanksgiving with my grandbabies.
Yeah, that's so nice. Well, you know what? Like I said, it's 9:16 there, 10:16 there. I need to call in tonight. My husband said, don't keep it too long. I'm already past the time I said I was going to be anyway. But anyways, Charmaine, thank you guys so much. And, sorry if it kind of flipped 3/4 of the way through to other stuff. Sorry, not sorry. Really, this channel, if you know it, does stuff like that all the time. Some OCD people can't handle that. And others can handle it because they just enjoy being in the chat regardless of what we're talking about. And anyways, and thank you, Sissy, for becoming a member. But yeah, thank you so much, Charmaine. Anyways, do you have any last words quickly on the JonBenet? Anything else you'd like to say? A final moment thing?
Just kind of fingers crossed that this new DNA testing, and if they do actually in fact have items that they haven't tested yet, I think that the case is going to be solved. We always have to keep hope. So the case is going to be solved right away.
And I'm not sure if you watched the last two JonBenet things on News Nation, but okay, so they're going to be testing, like doing the 23andMe thing, and as well testing some of the evidence that wasn't tested, and they're going to basically, I think, kind of go through people again. Now that this new,
and we kind of assumed that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But
yeah, right, and it was just a matter of when. Like you could tell with John Ramsey, of course, talking, that obviously more was going to come about this, and then it just seemed like it happened actually kind of rather somewhat quickly. I guess a little bit that it was all of a sudden okay. Now we're I guess at that point where that stuff's going to happen, and then we'll just hopefully. JonBenet needs her justice. It's a ridiculously long time. That poor little girl needs the justice.
And I would say, judging by some of the things we've seen this year, that justice could, or the start to that justice could happen any day.
Yeah.
I mean,
Correct.
we've seen movement in cases in the last week, a couple weeks that we didn't expect to see. And we've seen several cases this year get movement that I think are unexpected and hopeful.
Yeah.
So JonBenet
Right.
is deserving of all of that.
Yeah. Go ahead. Would you say, Charmaine?
I said agreed, 100%. I agree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
No, thanks for coming on for a second time. Thank you so much,
This
Charmaine.
is my first time with Charmaine, even though it was just for a few minutes. But
Oh, true that. Yeah. Mwah. Thank you so much, guys. You guys have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow night. Delphi again tomorrow, you guys. And for the Canadians, you guys have a good Thanksgiving weekend coming up here. Take care. Good night, guys.
good night, everyone.
I've got to find the extra. That's all. Give me a second. Okay, bye. Oh, I guess apparently I didn't hit it. Let's try it again. This is Sunny Justice and Aspen Connor from It's a Crime and Shame, wishing you all a good night.